Welcome back to A Slice of News, where I cut you off a slice of news. Mere days after the 30-day military takeover of Washington, D.C.'s police force, the president has threatened to seize control of it once again if the city does not comply with his plan for mass deportation of undocumented individuals. The mayor of Washington, Muriel Bowser, has said that the Metropolitan Police will no longer cooperate with immigration forces, forcefully remove and relocate those they claim to be dangerous illegal aliens. And the president claimed in one of his numerous unhinged and alarmist messages, not giving ICE free rein to detain and remove anyone they see is a danger, will cause crime to surge back, and that to save the city from this danger, he's willing to call in another national emergency, and that he will, quote, federalize if necessary. This kind of complete nonsense messaging is entirely on brand for the commander-in-chief, who typed half his message in all-capped letters, making sure to spell out the word crime in the biggest, boldest letters his typeface would allow him. It's especially ridiculous because, as the mayor pointed out in a recent press conference, immigration enforcement is not within the purview of the Metropolitan Police under normal circumstances, and now that the so-called crime emergency has expired, they especially have no reason to dip their toe into immigration enforcement. The entire premise of the so-called crime emergency was built on a lie. They claimed that crime in the city was surging and out of control, so the president had no choice but to put the police force under federal control, and mobilizing armed National Guard soldiers was just a necessity. But the reality was that crime in the city was at a 30-year low. But I think the true motivations for that militarization of the city's law enforcement becomes clear when you find that 40% of the arrests made in those 30 days were immigration related. They were using the cover of this crime emergency to justify a mass removal of those they saw as undesirable. I guess thankfully, when the administration petitioned Congress to extend the state of emergency, they had refused to vote upon it. So I suppose unsurprisingly, when he doesn't get what he wants in an extension of his emergency, he vows to just create a new one, continue his mass deportations unabated. But I think the mayor's refusal to allow her officers to continue assisting the immigration enforcement agents shows that despite her initial capitulation to the administration's wants to use the D.C. police force as essentially another arm of immigration enforcement, she's no longer willing to let it go on any further. This whole fantasy that D.C. was some sort of hive of scum and villainy akin to the cantina in Star Wars ultimately wasn't going to hold up for long. Sure, as a major city, there is a crime issue in Washington, D.C., but as I stated before, crime is down at the moment, so the justification for some sort of crime emergency really were never there to begin with. Though, of course, that never stopped the administration from touting their ever-growing arrest numbers as if they were doing some sort of public good, when the reality was anyone paying attention could see that it was all just show, and they never genuinely had the well-being of the city's citizens in mind. I said from the beginning that the idea of a crime emergency that required the federalization of the D.C. police force and armed military men coming in and patrolling the streets was entirely unnecessary, essentially just security theater, but also a way for the administration to remove undocumented people from the city without oversight. And let's not forget, yet another distraction from the Epstein files, and the president's desire to get people to stop focusing on just how involved and intertwined he is in those files. It still remains to be seen just how effective this latest try for a new national emergency and resulting federal control of the police force of D.C. will be, or if it is yet again another example of pure bluster and no actual outcome. And while I have no doubt President Trump would like to do it, it's really not looking like he's going to get his way this time. The D.C. mayor doesn't seem into it. Congress doesn't really seem into it. I think the only real outcome is to keep his supporters, those who buy into his propaganda, in yet more state of fear, thinking the city is overrun with illegal immigrants and the crime that they bring to the city. The Washington, D.C. overrun with crime is largely something that only exists in the minds of conservatives, something they can use to manipulate those who know less about how things really are in the city, and to justify actions that would otherwise not be allowed. The real criminals in D.C. aren't out in the streets. They're wearing suits and sitting in the White House and in Congress. If President Trump really wanted to clear Washington, D.C. of its crime problem, he would leave. But I think think we all know that's not happening anytime soon. It feels like the only way to get him out of DC is with a forklift. and him being very unwilling to leave. I, for one, have to applaud D.C. Mayor Bowser for standing up to the administration, both for D.C. police and for the people who live in the city, and saying no more. President Trump, you had your 30 days and it's done. Time to give D.C. back to D.C. and standing firm on that and not bending the knee to the president as so many do. As has been made clear time and time again, President Trump is a bully, and the only response to a bully is to stand up to them and say no more. I may have let you get away with it up till now, but I am done. And that is what we're seeing Mayor Bowser do, and she should be congratulated for that. Like a petulant child who doesn't get their way and is told no. President always tries to seem to find workarounds, one of which increasingly seems to be to go to the Supreme Court, who with a strong conservative majority tends to usually give him whatever it is that he does want, even when it's decided the things that he wants are usually not even legal by lower courts. And he knows, as the highest court in the land, their word is pretty much the final say. But once they give him the go-ahead, there's not much anyone can do about stopping whatever it is that he's wanting to do. I think we're well beyond setting a dangerous precedent. The dangerous precedent has been set, and the administration has basically been given free rein to do unconstitutional, illegal stuff because the highest court has said, yes, Donnie, you can have whatever you want, Donnie. And that's a dangerous power for a man like Donald Trump to wield, because we all suffer as a result. It's really beginning to feel like the end goal is a nation of only white Christians, with all foreigners and non-whites expelled. The administration has no problem taking foreign money, but they don't want foreign people in their country. And yes, maybe that read is a bit hyperbolic and lacks nuance, but the growing acceptance and even encouragement of racial profiling by immigration services really starts to make you feel like what they're really trying to do is take out anyone that looks vaguely brown and make them leave, whether they're a legal citizen or not. Of course, brings to mind one of the more extreme cases, Kilmar Abrego Garcia, the Maryland man who was first deported to El Salvador, spending months in the Salvadorian mega prison after finally being returned home back in June, being deported to the African country of Eswatini, all while claiming he was an MS-13 gang member, despite there being literally no evidence to support that claim. It becomes more and more difficult not to view the administration as very blatantly racist and enacting very racist policies, often by force, and feeling like they have no one that can stop them. And at times it does feel like there's nothing that can stop them doing things that feel wrong, that feel illegal, that feel un-American when you really get down to it. For so long it was believed that multiculturalism was the strength of this country. What made us great and strong was just how many peoples and cultures we had here, all working together for a common good. But the administration, its believers, would have us believe that that multiculturalism is a rot at the core of our country, and it's only by excising the unlike and the unwhite we could get back to the good old days. But I suppose that's also not that surprising, since those good old days were also extremely racist. There's a lot of soul-searching and healing we have to do as a nation, but we're never going to get around to it while we have a nationalistic xenophobe in the highest office in the land. When you get down to it, Donald Trump is a lot of things: a racist, a misogynist, and as the Epstein files are likely to confirm, a sexual predator, and possibly even worse. So we really can't move forward until he's not around to hold us back any longer. This whole threat of a new national emergency declaration is just more nonsense, more distracting. Another example of when he can't get what he wants, he'll force himself onto you until he gets what he wants, whether you want it or not. And the enablers that he surrounds himself with basically just sit there and let it happen because they fear that the moment that they displease the king, he will remove them. So in a bid for self-preservation, they basically just say yes to whatever he says. And I would say I wish those in Trump's inner circle would grow a conscience, but I assume that one of the prerequisites to join said inner circle was to have that removed from them, as well as their spines. Despite this, though, I would be pretty surprised if he succeeds in his bid to make a new national emergency and re-establish his military takeover of the Washington, D.C. police. But also, I've been disappointed before, so I suppose I shouldn't hold my breath too much. So that will be it for this episode of A Slice of News. As always, I've been your host, Mr. Slice, and until next time, when I cut you off another slice of news.